Good afternoon. It's good to be here. And I have to say, I was, I'm honored to follow Laura Stanton, that incredible presentation. That stuff is great. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. But I have to say, I got a little confused walking over here. And I walked into the other side, which is the Best Women Chefs Conference. And as much as I think it's a lot of fun to be here, to be in front of you, I'm dying to see what the best women chefs in Washington are cooking up. So I might stick around and see if I can, maybe horn in on that event. But it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm really honored to have the chance to be in front of you today and talk a little bit about some of the work we're doing at GSA, particularly in partnership with our great friends at OMB, Office of Federal Procurement Policy. Ann Rung, the administrator there, former GSAer. I think it's really important I point that out. And Tom Khalil, who runs OSTP. I know he's been instrumental in helping us pull this session together, as well as a good friend and I think a true leader in innovative thought and about the way we can deliver services in the federal government. And that's Brian Sivak and Mark Negar from HHS, who helped pull this event together. I know you've heard earlier today from Greg Goppout from 18F, some really exciting things we're doing there, trying to rethink the way we approach technology purchasing in the federal government and really rethink the way that the federal government develops its relationship with the industry to try to get incredible outcomes for the American people, because they deserve no less. And then obviously you just heard from Laura and the great work we're doing in CAP, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the thinking there. But first, I want to reprise this interesting little chestnut. A few years ago, when I first came to GSA, started talking about what we were trying to do in GSA in our relationship with other agencies. We talked about really breaking down the silos of government. And over the last 3 years, I've heard those hammers, like these guys here, pounding away at the things that separate us, agency from agency. And God, I could watch that all day long. It's really incredibly, it's really incredibly gratifying to see the work that's happened over the last 3 years at my time at GSA in working with other agencies, our great agency partners, to really begin to start knocking down silos, really start erasing the barriers from agency to agency, and really ask ourselves, what can we learn from each other? What's the benefit we can get from each other so that we can be better at delivering the services that we're responsible for the American people? But I have to say that my history in government started 23 years ago in 1991 with OMB, and these were just like the highest and best expression of technological excellence within the federal government at the time. I show this to my kids, and they think that this is the computer that my dad used to play video games on. So you know, my dad was born in 1924 in Boston when horses were still a main form of conveyance. That's how anachronistic that thing is. And I remember my boss at the time, who was the first one to get one of these things put on the desk, because that's how you knew someone was a boss, that there was like a $3,500 investment. Yeah, that thing with the floppy drive probably cost $3,500. A $3,500 investment put on that person's desk. And I remember him saying to us, look, if you want me to pay attention to it, if you want me to get it done for you, if you want me to look it over, do not send it to me on email. I'm not going to read it, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to catch on. And what's interesting is he was actually way ahead of his time, because I remember about 3 years ago, my oldest daughter brought me her smartphone. She brought it to me. It's like, Daddy, can you put email on this for me? And I'm like, you've had this phone for a couple of years and you just want email now? And she just rolls her eyes like, Daddy, no one uses email anymore. I'm just using it so I can talk to you. So little did I know, my old boss was in fact right. The whole email thing, well, it did catch on for a moment there. It has actually been dramatically replaced and frankly subverted by a whole new suite of ways for people to communicate, collaborate, for people to engage in commerce, for people to share ideas, for people to develop those ideas. And we carry this incredible device around in our pocket now. And if you think about it, it's only 7 years old. 7 years old, but for people in their teens, it has become a vital organ. Because my kids have said that they will die if they don't have this thing, right? So if they were to lose it or if they were to break it, Daddy, I will die if I don't have it. So who knew 7 years ago when this thing came out, although I got a first generation one and I wasn't sure what an app was or what I would use it for, but I did have this distinct feeling like I mugged an alien and stole their communications device. There was something so wildly different about it. And that has gone through 6 iterations, at least 6 iterations over the last 7 years. And the questions we have to ask ourselves as people delivering services to the American people is how many iterations have our processes and systems gone through in those last 7 years? I mean, in many cases, we're still on version 1.2 of the process that was invented somewhere in the late 1930s. I like to point out, I have another slide that shows an auto pen signing stuff. You know, that was really cool, cutting-edge technology in 1934 when it was invented. But we still have vital business processes in our government that relies on that technology to get stuff done. And if you think about the world in the last 10 years and the amount of disruption that's taken place, one way to think about it is in your own personal life. And think about something as simple as the video store. I remember back in the 1980s, I thought that was pretty clever. This idea that you could get second-run movies for a small fee, a larger fee with late fees, which I tended to get, frankly. You could go down there, and if your neighbors were kind enough to bring the video back when it was due, you know, you might actually stand a chance of getting in line and having a chance to see Stripes or whatever. You could participate in this whole value chain where it went from the movie studio to the factory where it got turned into a DVD. That was even pretty slick. I thought those were really clever. You could put them in a pocket. And then you could, you know, bike or drive or walk over to the video store and then bike or drive or walk back. But in 2000, if you invested in Blockbuster, you would have spent about $32 a share. By 2012, this whole idea of streaming live or streaming content through the cloud to your house had actually manifested itself to such a degree that if you had done what investing people tell you to do, which is to buy and hold, your Blockbuster stock would have been worth 2 cents a share. Why? Because the whole industry, the billion-dollar industry, the thousands of outlets, the many competing folks who were trying to rent you videos had frankly been replaced by direct streaming of content. And I don't think that there's any of us, except those of you who may have owned Blockbuster stock, who pine for the day when they could have gone back to the video store. I think there's one that's remaining out there. I think there's one franchise left. It's part of the Smithsonian Museum. No, I'm kidding. So the fact is, why do so many of our government services actually feel like a really bad day at Blockbuster? Why do so many of our government services actually not reflect the fact that we have gone through a revolution in technology and we've gone through a revolution in the way people should expect and do expect basic services to be delivered to them? And that means at a fundamental level, we have to ask ourselves, does it make sense to force people to go through very, very difficult, very process-intensive steps to get things, to purchase things? We came up with this example around Thanksgiving. And imagine if you actually had to go to each individual store to buy your turkey or your stuffings or your mashed potatoes. Now, I know there's some people who think that that's actually kind of cool and it's all local. I get it. There's a value there. But I'm saying for your average kind of basic, Thanksgiving meal, doesn't it make a lot more sense, to go to the grocery store? Doesn't it make a lot more sense to have that information, to have the choices laid out in front of you so you can comparison shop, so you can have an idea of which one is particular to you, which brand you like, what are the services you're interested in. And that whole experience, that basic grocery store experience, which, by the way, has existed in food shopping since like the 19-teens, has actually been dramatically improved by the fact that you can get comparison shopping information to your handheld right now. That's forcing grocery stores to be more thoughtful in the way they present information. It's creating a great opportunities for consumers and price. So for us, our thought was, why shouldn't that be the case for buyers in the federal space as well? And that was the essential element of what you heard Laura talking about. This idea that what we should do is take the information that is stored in every agency in terms of what they're buying, who they're buying it from, what's the price they're paying, what's the value you're getting, what's the experience that they went through, maybe even the vehicles that they have that say, look, these are available to you. These are government-wide available vehicles, but there isn't a central location where the 60,000 contracting officers of the federal government can go to get that information, to share their best practices, to have a sense of what it is they're buying, what they need, and what's available. This, in many ways, is a larger version of what HHS has been creating within their agency around the idea of a buyer's club. We believe that there should be a government-wide buyer's club. And we believe that that government-wide buyer's club should be supported by government-wide information available instantaneously to everyone in the contracting community. And that's what the Consolidated Acquisition Platform and the hallways are trying to do. Taking the brilliant idea that's happening in HHS and taking it and branching it across the government with the support of the Office of Federal Procurement Policy and with the support of our own federal contracting community. We need all of you, to participate in creating a successful environment in which all of you, will have the information that you need to buy the goods and services that you need to deliver your mission as effectively and as easily as possible. When I first started in government, I worked in the policy and engineering office of the Chicago Park District. And it was a great job when you're in graduate school. I got to learn everything about building parks. I got to learn a lot about local government. I got to go to community meetings and get yelled at. I was like Parks and Rec, every day. I can't even watch that show because it's so true. But one of the great experiences I took away from it was in park design. The architects and the engineers who design parks, they like to sit down and they like to draw the park as if they were in a balloon sitting over the park. And they like to draw it out so that the trees and the water feature and the pathways kind of describe a really interesting story, or draw a nice picture, or make for a great Google photograph, Google Maps shot. But the simple fact is, when people actually use those environments, they come up with some very different ideas. In the example of the picture I'm showing here, what you see is the kind of the formal layout of the paths that probably looked great on the drawing. What you see also is the actual paths that actual people are taking to go where they really want to go. It's possible that up in the corner there is a bus stop and that people need to get there, or there's a school over on the side and all the kids are running to go over there. There's a really great food truck that stops way up on the top of that park and people want to get there. And so the real trick when you're running any kind of long-term park system is to try to understand where those desire lines, they're called, are, and then to build the paths around them. And in many ways, I think that's the perfect allegory for what we need to do in federal acquisition. We have to understand what the desire lines of the people we're trying to serve, what the desire lines of those missions are, what the ultimate goal we're trying to achieve, which is giving the American people the tremendous service they deserve and they expect. And we then have to start building the paths that reflect those outcomes, not the paths that maybe look the best on a piece of paper. And that's really the challenge before us. So I won't be with you much longer in federal service. I got about another 48 hours. But I plan to continue to listen for that chopping sound as you collectively work to bring down those silos, build those connections, and start paving over those desire lines and giving the American people what they deserve and they expect in the way of high-quality services. Thank you very much for your service. Thank you for your interest, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for attending. That concludes all of our speakers and presentations. We did end up finishing early. You're welcome to stick around and chat with everyone, although I imagine some of you would probably like to beat some of this potential weather home. Again, you will receive a post-conference survey. We're going to try and provide some incentives to get maximum participation to fill those out. We're also going to send an email out about idea scale so we can continue these conversations moving forward. Look for more information coming out in the coming months because I think this is just the beginning of the shift towards innovative acquisitions. Thank you very much.